Peter Dinklage comes into this as when Rachel Zegler was cast, he laughed at Disney saying it's fake progressivism.
Literally no offense to anything. They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
They're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarves. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why would they get rid of the dwarves, though?
Magical creatures.
Because right now there's more dwarves on this podcast than there are in the new Snow White movie. And that's probably due to Peter Dinklage.
Yep.
Rachel Zegler, once praised as Hollywood's rising star, suddenly found herself swept up in what's now infamously known as the Snow White disaster. The term says it all. A storm of backlash, disastrous test screenings, on-set drama, and nonstop controversy that nearly sank Disney's live-action remake.
The argument should have been from Peter Dinklage. There's power of being on TV. There's power of television. And to put 7 people with dwarfism on camera in a major Disney movie, there's still power there. If the story is offensive, change the story. Don't change the characters.
But now, a shocking new twist has exploded online. Insiders say Rachel Zegler is privately pointing the finger at none other than Peter Dinklage, blaming him for fanning the flames of the controversy. And just like that, the internet reignited with fresh outrage and speculation. Could Dinklage really be the spark that lit this fire? Why would Zegler target him? Or is this just another symptom of Hollywood's messy war with its fairy tale past?
Said it's now being reported they won't be Little People and will be called the 7 Bandits instead, which has fans outraged. With a $200 million budget, this is likely going to fail and cost Disney $100 million without Charles Perrault subscribe to learn something.
Long before the movie ever hit theaters, the entire Snow White project was dripping with drama. Disney boldly unveiled its mission to reinvent the iconic fairy tale for a new generation, vowing to toss out what it saw as outdated themes from the 1937 animated original. At first, fans were cautiously hopeful. Casting Rachel Zegler as Snow White sparked instant debate. Some hailed it as a huge step for inclusivity, while others worried Disney was about to rewrite too much of a cherished classic.
Progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Then came Peter Dinklage, who lit a firestorm with his bold criticism of Disney's plan to include the 7 dwarfs, calling it potentially stereotypical and offensive. His words hit hard, especially among those who felt Hollywood needed to tread more carefully with representation. But for Disney, it was an instant PR emergency. Suddenly, the studio was trapped, trying to pay tribute to a beloved classic without stepping straight into controversy. The fan base split almost overnight. Some praised Dinklage for taking a stand, while others slammed him for derailing a fairy tale that, if handled with respect, could have still been something magical.
The reason being that Peter Dinklage, who does have achondroplasia, finds the depiction of the 7 dwarfs very offensive. Peter Dinklage said that Disney casting Rachel Zegler is their way to feel good about themselves while ignoring a much bigger problem.
Through all the chaos, Rachel Zegler stayed noticeably silent. Whether it was her own decision or due to contractual obligations, she didn't say a word publicly. But behind the scenes, whispers of growing tension were getting louder by the day. Rumors of major script changes began to swirl. Insiders claimed Disney was in full-blown panic mode, scrambling to rewrite the story in response to Dinklage's explosive comments. The creative team was reportedly divided, unsure whether to keep the dwarfs or cut them entirely from the film.
I haven't seen it yet, have you?
I have not.
I don't have plans to see it. It sounds terrible. It just sounds awful.
And right in the eye of the storm stood Rachel Zegler, stuck in a role while the entire story kept shifting around her. As filming wrapped up, troubling reports started leaking. Editing was said to be a mess, and the plot? Confused and all over the place. Early test audiences weren't impressed either, calling the film emotionally flat and disconnected. Many felt key scenes had been forcefully reshaped to fit modern agendas, not with subtlety or care, but in a way that clashed hard with the original's timeless magic.
The fact that this film is completely falling apart, we're going to take a look at how bad this movie is actually doing in the box office, because it is hilariously bad. It is a complete and total humiliation for Disney. And like I said, they deserve it all, okay?
For a tale as legendary as Snow White, this wasn't just disappointing, it was downright alarming. Behind the scenes, the situation wasn't any calmer. Rumors swirled that the creative team was in turmoil. Some insiders pushed hard for a faithful, classic adaptation. while others were determined to overhaul the story to match modern values. The divide was deep, and the pressure kept building. And caught in the middle of it all, Rachel Zegler, now the unmistakable face of the entire project. Every stumble, whether it was a script change, awkward press moment, or directorial shift, somehow got pinned on her. It wasn't long before new whispers emerged. Zegler was fed up. Some said she was venting privately, while others claimed she had started quiet damage control behind the scenes.
Do these orgies of CGI animation, recycling in a loveless format, the exact same, now every story is the same story about, again, a kick-ass female protagonist. Like, what, it's just so formulaic and rote and done without any love or originality whatsoever. I think that's the problem.
One wild rumor even claimed there had been legal trouble after a heated confrontation on set. While nothing was ever officially confirmed, the non-stop wave of speculation kept dragging the film's image further into the mud. In response, Disney tried to shift the narrative, launching a public pivot, but nearly every attempt backfired and sparked even more backlash. Even die-hard Disney loyalists began turning on the film, calling it a major misstep. Critics weren't any kinder. Many labeled it a prime example of how modern storytelling can go completely off the rails. As the release date crept closer, the negativity surrounding Snow White hit a boiling point. And Peter Dinklage's early remarks about the dwarfs? They still echoed across the conversation, subtly shaping public perception of the film's goals. Some applauded him for starting a vital conversation about inclusivity. Others blamed his comments for sparking a messy overcorrection that left the entire movie feeling confused and hollow.
When you are in these kinds of roles, it is a privilege, and you actually have some contractual obligations that you're supposed to be doing no harm, and in fact, above doing no harm, adding value to elevating this artwork that you've put together with a whole army of people who, dedicate their lives to it. So I understand where the criticisms are coming.
Rachel Zegler took the full force of the fallout. As the film's lead, she became the easiest and most visible target for critics frustrated by what they saw as a chaotic, tone-deaf remake. The phrase Snow White disaster quickly caught fire online, becoming the go-to label for everything that had gone wrong. From internal studio clashes and dull rewrites to polarizing promos and lukewarm early reviews. Once that nickname stuck, there was no escaping it. Headlines declared Disney's reimagining doomed, crushed under the weight of its own overreach. And Zegler? Every social media post, every red carpet appearance, fans picked apart her tone, her face, her body language, desperately searching for signs of regret.
I really hope that I have a similar heart to hers. She has this beautiful, unending kindness and positive outlook towards the world and the world around us. I wish I could be as positive as she is at times. That's certainly a difference we have, but I think it's a very human thing to not always see the bright side. But that is part of the beauty of Snow White. It has been for 88 years now that she just sees the good in everyone and everything. And I hope that I and so many people who watch this film can embody that as well.
Online, audiences were completely divided. Some still held out hope that Snow White could be saved, while others had already slammed it as a total lost cause. As the chaos escalated, new whispers began to spread. Was Disney quietly looking for an exit strategy? Rumors exploded that the studio might fast-track an entirely new adaptation, one that would sidestep the controversy altogether. Fans began speculating about a total reset, new cast, new director, new creative vision. And then one name suddenly caught fire across the internet, Jenna Ortega. Known for her emotional range, sharp wit, and scene-stealing presence, Ortega was instantly embraced as the dream replacement, especially if the reboot could hit a modern tone without coming off like a forced lecture. Just the thought of Ortega stepping into the role reignited fan excitement and gave weary audiences something fresh to hope for.
As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
Even as Zegler's version of Snow White continued to sink under waves of bad press, a shocking new twist dropped. Unverified reports began to swirl. Rachel Zegler was allegedly blaming Peter Dinklage for the film's collapse. According to the rumors, Zegler believed that Dinklage's early comments about the dwarfs sparked the backlash and triggered a domino effect of chaotic rewrites. She allegedly confided that these sudden changes completely shifted the film's tone, leaving her performance stranded in a story that kept morphing around her. Whether fair or not, the claim caught fire online, igniting a whole new wave of debate. Some fans said her frustration was totally justified. They argued that the spotlight had moved away from her performance and onto a massive industry-wide conversation about representation, one that buried the cast's work before it ever had a real shot at being judged on its own terms.
On the original production, I was scared of it. Oh, it was so weird. It was a stalker. Like, I feel like if you are taking on the most iconic Disney role ever, genuinely, like this was the most prolific Disney film, I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production.
But not everyone was buying it. Critics pushed back, arguing that the film's problems went way beyond dwarf representation. They pointed to clunky tone shifts, heavy-handed messaging, and a total lack of fairy tale charm. Maybe Dinklage lit the match, but he definitely wasn't the whole fire. Inside the industry, most experts dismissed the finger-pointing altogether. Yes, tensions were high, but boiling the film's downfall down to one person's comment? That, they warned, was far too simplistic. Still, the Zegler versus Dinklage narrative refused to fade away. Some even highlighted Dinklage's past record of calling out Hollywood's outdated norms, saying it wouldn't be shocking if his critique had sent shockwaves through the studio's plans.
She's also just a spoiled, entitled, narcissistic brat who was perfectly willing, because she's not well, she might be stupid, but she's not so dumb that she didn't realize that by, for example, coming out and saying that all Trump supporters deserve to suffer for like, she's smart enough to know that, of course, that's going to upset a large portion of the potential audience for this project that I'm on.
If the studio truly panicked and overcorrected, it's easy to see how that could have spiraled into the chaos we ended up with. In that light, Zegler pointing the finger at Dinklage didn't sound so outrageous to those who had been following the drama from day one. By the time the movie finally reached theaters, it limped in under a heavy cloud of controversy and rock-bottom expectations. Reviews poured in, ranging from underwhelming to downright brutal. Critics echoed what early test audiences had warned. The story felt disjointed, torn between awkward nods to the 1937 classic and clunky attempts at forced modernization. The depiction of the dwarfs stirred the most debate. Some viewers said they felt like empty placeholders, trapped in a film that couldn't decide whether to feature them boldly, erase them entirely, or reshape them into something unrecognizable.
And this started with the movie star Rachel Zegler, who I believe would be categorized as a loudmouth dope.
Rachel Zegler's performance proved just as divisive as the film itself. Some praised her for doing the best she could with a chaotic, ever-changing script, while others argued she was miscast from the very beginning. Meanwhile, Peter Dinklage remained notably silent. That silence only added fuel to the fire. Was he staying quiet out of professionalism? Or was he quietly disappointed with how the final cut handled the exact issues he had called out? Zegler, still under the internet's magnifying glass, faced constant scrutiny. Every interview, every social media post was dissected. Fans searched for hidden digs or cryptic shade. When she mentioned creative misalignments, was she taking a shot at Dinklage or throwing subtle blame at Disney's leadership? With theories spreading like wildfire, the line between fact and speculation blurred completely, and the drama showed no signs of slowing down.
God forbid a woman dream about true love. We're all just sitting around here, maybe I could be president one day. I hate men, I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my God, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
The release came and went with barely a ripple. Just a flash of online buzz before fading into critical and box office disappointment. Inside Hollywood, the verdict was swift. Snow White 2025 had become a textbook cautionary tale, a film thrown off course by too many clashing visions and knee-jerk decisions. Industry insiders argued the whole disaster might have been avoided with a more balanced approach, a faithful retelling that wove in modern updates thoughtfully, not forcefully. But once Dinklage's comments exploded online, Disney seemed to shift into panic mode, scrambling to prove its progressive credentials at all costs. That rush to appease, many now believe, was the fatal blow that doomed the entire project before it even had a chance.
And Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough if you are the biggest media company on earth to have that company turn against you.
Rachel Zegler has since moved on, determined to build a career beyond the long shadow of a film that was infamous before it even premiered. Peter Dinklage, meanwhile, remains a respected and fearless voice in Hollywood, never one to shy away from uncomfortable truths, and the rest of us were still piecing together what went so disastrously wrong. The rumor that Zegler blamed Dinklage is just one of many fascinating threads, unconfirmed, yet oddly believable. It fits a production that always seemed slightly out of sync, never quite grounded in a single vision. In the end, Snow White 2025 delivered a brutal reminder to Hollywood. No amount of brand recognition or nostalgia can save a movie that lacks direction. When the source material is iconic, every misstep is amplified tenfold, and here they piled up fast. A film overwhelmed by confusion, controversy, and criticism became the result. Whether or not Zegler actually pointed fingers, the whole saga revealed a harsh reality. How delicate the filmmaking process really is, especially when the story involves legacy, identity, and an audience split right down the middle.